for us. And the funny thing is, God knows all this negative stuff that you thought at times. God knows all of the little wagers that you've made with him that you were not going to keep. Oh God, if you get me out of this, I'll never do that. You're a lie. And the truth ain't in you. I see I'm not by myself. There's some other vow breakers in the room. And God read your thoughts. He knew you was lying before you knew you was lying. And he still did it anyway. Has God ever shown up and got you out of trouble knowing good and well you wasn't going to keep what you promised? My God. So then the Lord deserves a worthy praise and a worthy thank you just for being willing to be bothered with us, because he knows everything, and he knows that we're not going to keep our agreements. Sometimes he knows we overcommit and underdeliver, but he still deals with us. And so here we find Ezekiel, who had also been a part of a time in biblical history where people were not keeping their word. I know it's 2021. Can somebody say same God back then is same God right now? Because it's still a lot of people who talked a lot of stuff during the pandemic. You know, you could get people on your Facebook Live in the beginning of the pandemic who would never step foot in your church. And now that it seemed like things had got a little bit better, folks started forgetting about the same God that kept them, the same God that healed their body, the same God that raised them back up, the same God that gave them another opportunity. It seemed like folk began to forget about that. And so now that the Delta variant is popping back up, you starting to see folk get interested again. Well, wait a minute, Jesus. Because I knew you were serious, but I didn't know you were serious. Come on. So when this pandemic first started, me and Pastor E had a whole discussion. The discussion really went something like this. This ain't going to be enough. There's more coming. Come on. I ain't trying to tell you I'm no prophet. I already know that. But what I'm saying is the evidence was all across the wall. It was written all over our faces. We never had to say a word. Just smile. Just smile. Just smile for me. Wow. God knows when we ain't built solid. God knows when our mind is filthy and full of clutter. God knows when we don't have our hearts and our minds fixed on doing what he told us to do. But nonetheless, he just still goes ahead and deals with us. And he was dealing with Ezekiel. And here in Ezekiel, we find out that Ezekiel says God took a hold of him in a moment where really he should have been probably killing Ezekiel, killing off all of his lineage, killing off everybody that lived next to him because they were so rebellious and whatever else. But instead, God laid his hand specifically on Ezekiel. Have you ever been surrounded by a bunch of people that are failing, but somehow, some way, God still allows you to thrive, and you don't understand it because the truth of the matter is you ain't no better than them. In the moment where you deserve to get your feelings hurt and God desires to fulfill your feelings and give you another opportunity and do something different with you, that's a good moment to tell God thank you. And that's exactly what Ezekiel was about to experience, because God took him by the Spirit, and it says that he carried him away to a valley filled with bones. Oh my God. Do you understand that the bones represent dead things? Somebody said it, I heard it. Yeah, that's right, Brother Joe. Bones represent dead things. Bones represent broken promises. Bones represent a lack of fulfilling your potential. Some of us need to apologize to God because we're living way beneath where he told us to be. We are not fulfilling our potential. We're not doing what he told us to do. Why? Because we're still trying to hold on to everything else that we want to do. God says if you would just abandon your wants and take on my wants, I would blow your mind. I'd show you that what you want you don't even need, because what I got for you is better than what you're going to get yourself. Because if you keep going the way you want to go, you're going to find yourself in a world full of hurt. But if you go the way I want you to go, you're going to find yourself in a wealthy place. Does anybody still want to live in the overflow? Does anybody still desire to be in the place God placed them, even if it's not the place you want it to be? Take me to the next verse. That's Devon. So this valley is filled with bones. And then Ezekiel tells us a little bit about his adventure in that valley filled with bones. He says, he led me around among the bones that covered the valley floor. I need somebody to say, that's a lot of dead people. That's a lot of people who didn't meet their potential. That's a lot of people who didn't live up to the call. That's a lot of people who chose to ignore, chose to just write off what God was trying to do. And now God allowed Ezekiel to live and walk amongst the people, probably people he went to the grocery store with, probably people he graduated high school with, probably people he played ball with at the Lincoln Center. And some kind of way, when God was taking everybody else and just discarding them and getting rid of them, that was the moment where he allowed Ezekiel to walk through that. Why do you think God brought him to a place like that? Yeah, that's good. A reminder, sure. But how about this? Perhaps a warning. You see, we love the God that tells us you're going to get a new car. We love the God that tells us I'm about to pay your rent for 6 months and you ain't going to have to worry about it. Y'all be dancing all through the building. The Spirit of the living God. We wouldn't be able to shut you up. But what about when God warns you and tries to stop you from doing what you really want to do anyway? They said there were so many bones there that they covered the valley floor. Imagine if this carpet was representative of bones. Well, first of all, ew. And here's the thing. I need you to know these wasn't no Popeye's chicken bones. You know, I get in trouble with my husband because he said I don't eat all the meat off the bone. Well, that's nasty to me. Once I start seeing certain stuff, I'd be like, yeah. You can have it then. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he do. And half the time I be, but these bones weren't like them chicken bones that I get in trouble for not eating all the meat off of, because the Bible tells us that the bones that were everywhere across the ground were completely dried out. Give me the next slide, E. And so after we find out that the bones were completely dried out, we learn that that probably means that them bones have been there for quite some time. And then God asked what seems to be, to me, a little bit of a dumb question. Now, I know I'm not the only one, but have you ever got irritated with somebody who asked you a question that they should have already known the answer to? And wow, you cleared your voice loud. Jesus, the same. It's something different. It's okay though, because it just hits a little bit different when you know somebody being goofy and you like, come on now, think through your question. That's how I answer people. Ask me something. That too, Deidre said, did you really just ask me that? But I go back and I'll rehearse their question back to them to see if they get it. Like, okay, so now you ask me, what? I just want you to repeat it. I think it was this week I told Pastor E, he feels offended right now because he's feeling offended right in this moment because I told him, I said, your answer was in your question. It ain't just me in my house, you in your house too. God asked him a question. He says, Son of man, which is to say, Ezekiel, can these bones live again? I want to tell y'all a quick story. It's story time in the tabernacle. I remember being a youth. I won't say how old, just to not incriminate myself. I remember being a youth, and we lived in West Dayton, and somebody, some kind of way, I'm sorry, animal lovers, some kind of way, somebody had shot a pit bull, and the pit bull passed away. And the people, my parents, where we grew up, we had an alley behind our house. If you don't know what an alley is, just know it's just a place where not a lot of people go, right? And so I would assume that the person was going to call animal control or do whatever, because in the city, if you have a dead animal, you can call this number. They come and pick it up, get rid of it, no problem. But this must have happened on like a Saturday or a Sunday, because animal control couldn't have been open. So what they did with the carcass, which is the dead body of the pit bull, was they took it and they threw it in the alley. Now, little did they know, a ripe young Pastor Rye was getting ready to have to go to school that Monday morning before animal control could come and get that pit bull. Now, mind you, my brother had already told me it was out there, but I thought I was going to be brave. So I said, I got to get to my bus stop. I'm going through it. And I got there, and what I didn't expect was, when I got there, the pit bull's eyes were still open. And I couldn't convince myself that it was dead. My God. Hallelujah. But it wasn't moving. It was laying there. And I got afraid because what I was seeing was scary. So I turned around and I went back to my house. Now, my mother was sleeping. I knew better than to get her, because my mom really wasn't about that static. No way. If the pit bull get up, she would have defended me with her life. But, you know, it's mom. It's kind of my job to defend her. So I went and I got my oldest brother. He was suspended from school. You ain't doing nothing. You ain't doing nothing. Come on. And I remember waking him up and immediately being called out of my name. I remember telling him, the pit bull is out there, and I'm afraid. He called me quite a few racial slurs. Made some inappropriate comments about me being scared. But like any good big brother, he got on up. He put his shoes on. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Mom, for teaching them to take care of me. They did a great job. He got up, he put his shoes on, and he got ready to walk me to the bus stop. Now, in hindsight, I wonder why I would have asked my big brother to do this, because he got a little bit of a sense of humor. So when we got there, I'm tapping him along the way, and I'm shaking like a leaf. Oh, jeez. I said, look, his eyes are open. He's not dead. My brother's like, man, if you don't, come on. And right, let's say this was the pit bull. Right as I got about here, he went, y'all, I think I had my first heart attack. I don't really know whether I was in the body or out of the body at that point. I do not know. But some kind of way I teleported from that spot all the way to my bus stop. But it got me past the dog. I remember returning home that evening after school. I don't even know how he got back. He might have turned around and went back home. His job was done at that point. He didn't see me safely to the bus stop, but he knew I got there. But I remember when I got home, I went to him, Pastor E, and I said, bruh, you play too much. That ain't funny. I could have had a heart attack. I could have died. I could have. And my brother said something that I'm going to tell you today about what happens with dead things. He said, why are you afraid of something dead? What can it do to you? Because he said, when it dies, all the power has gone out of it. If it was an alive pit bull, yeah, I might need to be scared, but I don't have to be fearful of anything dead. He said, what do you think? That pit bull was just going to jump back to life? It does not work like that. I say that to say we now understand that the circle of life is such that when God decides to take something through the process of death, generally that means it's all done. It's over with. So when he asks Ezekiel, can these dry bones live again? Ezekiel answers in a way I would say a politician would answer. Ezekiel says, oh, sovereign Lord, you alone know the answer to that. In my mind, my immediate answer would be, well, it ain't supposed to. If they get back up, we got a whole nother issue. Because mind you, y'all, he already described a scene that looked like something off a Thriller. It was after midnight. Something evil was lurking in the dark. Under the moonlight, he saw a sight that almost stopped his heart. He tried to scream. But terror took the sound before he could make it. He started to freeze, realizing he was almost out of time. Y'all, he was paralyzed because it was Thriller. Thriller night. Had them bones been able to get up and start, I would have answered differently. Can these dry bones live again? They bet not. What are you trying to teach me? If they do live again, we got a bigger problem because you finna have to find me. I'm gone. But Ezekiel didn't punk out. He didn't go crazy. Ezekiel just said, nah, you know what? Only, Lord, you know the answer to that. Give me the next one. And so this is the part that blows my mind. Because God never technically answers his own question. I love it when God gives us open-ended situations where he doesn't necessarily give us all the answers. Instead, he just puts a demand on Ezekiel. He says to Ezekiel, okay, that's a smart answer, but what I want you to do is I want you to speak a prophetic message to these bones. Now, right about here is where I begin to lose my mind because I begin to think, are they going to hear him? They dead. What's the point? Feel like wasted words. But what I need you to understand is whenever God asks you to do something ridiculous, you can settle in your mind that he's about to do the miraculous. I need you to hear that. If God asks you to do something ridiculous, it's only because he's about to do the miraculous. Matter of fact, if we were to jog back to the question that he asked Ezekiel, son of man, can these dry bones live again or whatever? The answer truly, since we're dealing with God, is yes. Because we've seen it. We saw it with Lazarus. We saw it with Jesus. Of course, nothing is technically dead with God. My God, I don't know who's been dealing with something and the situation looks like it's dead. The situation is now at the point where it stinks. Matter of fact, the situation is so dead that the bones are dry. There's no more life anywhere around it. I just need you to remember who you're with. Who you're with is one who does not get afraid of dead things. Why? Because he has the power of life and death in his hands. And God can do whatever it is he wants to do. So he says to Ezekiel, speak a prophetic message to these bones and say, dry bones, listen to the word of the Lord. I'm so glad, Lady Katana, that he told the dry bones, listen to the word of the Lord. In other words, don't listen to my words. Because even though sticks and stones may break my bones, allegedly words are not supposed to be able to hurt me. Now, I've lived long enough to know that some words do much damage. But in the case of being powerful, one thing is for sure and 10 things is for certain. There's a few people in this room that if I tell to do something, they better do it. Namely, Estevan, because he works for me right now. But anybody else who's not under my command, that's right, Pastor E, you too. Anybody else that's not under my command at the moment don't have to listen to my demands. My God. But the word of the Lord has much power. And at the name of Jesus, demons tremble. At the name of Jesus, every knee shall bow. Every tongue shall confess. And I got another news flash for you. When God says live, guess what? At the word of the Lord, everything that's dead got to come back to life. Why? Because God said it. Why? Because God intended it to be that way. So Ezekiel didn't tell these bones to get up of his own volition. He said it's the word of the Lord. My God, I wish that we would speak to our situations with the word of the Lord. My God, I wish that you would look at your wallet when your wallet feels a little bit too dry and your wallet begins to feel dead. And I wish that you would speak the word of the Lord that says live. Even now in the name of Jesus. Why? Because your Father owns the cattle of 1,000 hills. And when God says a thing, it's got to come to pass. I wish that we could speak the word of the Lord even when we are afraid. My God, because God has not given us the spirit of fear, but he's given us the spirit of power, of love, and of a sound mind. But if you want to be able to use the word, you're going to have to know it. Some of us are getting taken advantage of with our own weapons. Why? Because we don't know how to work our word, but the enemy does. And he knows if you don't know how to apply the promise to your situation, he don't have to. But when you speak the word of the Lord, my God, something's got to change. Hallelujah. So Ezekiel, not even really probably fully understanding what was happening, he did what God said. Ezekiel says in verse number 5, one word, and we've been teaching on it for the last 2 weeks in damage control. Perhaps Ezekiel was there because Ezekiel begins to tell these dry bones, you got to live. Why do you got to live? Because God said so. I don't care how long you've been that way. I don't care how long you've been that way. I don't care how long you've been that way. When God says live, when God interrupts your regularly scheduled program, guess what's got to happen? The Bible tells us in verse number 7 that suddenly, my God, I need somebody to say suddenly. Oh, you didn't say it like you mean it. I need you to say suddenly. Oh my God, we didn't say after a while. We didn't say next Tuesday. Baby, we said suddenly. Guess what? It didn't take no whole lot of time. That thing just responded. Guess why? Because when God puts a word out there, he puts a mandate on time. And even if you feel like you're behind time, God has the power to speed you up. My God, I wish you would declare the word of the Lord just so you could see your suddenly. Suddenly. I like the next 3 words. As Ezekiel spoke. I need somebody to understand. You ain't even about to be able to get all the words out your mouth before your situation start responding. What are you still dealing with that all you need to do is apply the word to so that you can see your suddenly? As Ezekiel spoke, the Bible declares that there was a rattling noise all across the valley. I wonder if that rattling noise sounded anything like boom, 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 boom. Tell me what you gonna do when judgment comes for you. What you gonna do when it ain't nowhere to hide? When judgment comes to you, because judgment's come for you. I can't go much farther with that because they would just, anybody know anything about Bone Thugs and Harmony, they got to a point where you really didn't understand all the words. That's exactly it. Y'all know when we don't know the words of songs, we get to murmuring through. Y'all already know when we don't know all the words. And then you gonna come back in strong on the part you think you know. See you at the crossroad. See you at the cross. So you won't be lonely. I can't tell you for sure or not if that's what the bones sounded like. But in my mind, the way I would have wanted to hear the bones coming back together was in harmony. So it's just me then. I'm the only one that wanted to hear the bones come back together in harmony. But there was a rattling noise. Do you understand how nerve-wracking the sound of rattling can be? I know y'all want to act saved. I know y'all want to act like you got it all together. I know you got your house and your car and, you know, you got the sunroof top and you're chilling in the scene with your gangster lean and all of that. But if you ever grew up in a place where mice could get in, I see I'm not the only one. There is a sound that can disrupt your peace, your dinner, anything. It ain't nothing like you sitting and then all of a sudden hearing. You will tear a room apart because rattling noises demand attention. You've been hearing rattling, not even understanding that the rattling noises that you're hearing is a response to the words that you've been speaking. Now you must ask yourself, what have I been saying? Because good or bad, the noises that I'm hearing are a response to how I'm acting. So if I'm acting in faith and I begin to hear rattling, I don't have to be afraid, because that means something is coming to help me. But when I'm speaking in negativity and I'm talking about all the things that are going wrong, if I start hearing rattling, I should begin to get a little afraid, because guess what? Now that rattling means that something could be opposing me. But in this situation, because God was with Ezekiel, my God, I need you to understand, when God is with you, you just ain't gonna go out like that. I know the enemy keeps trying to tell you that you're gonna go out and that you're going to die prematurely, or that you're not going to reach your potential, or that you're never going to see yourself back in the state where you want to be. But I need you to know the devil is a liar. He is a defeated foe. Anything the devil ever tells you is a lie. The moment it don't sound like Jesus, you ought to know it is the devil. How can I tell when God is talking to me versus when the devil is talking to me? Well, when the devil talks to me, he's talking about nothing but my failures. He's talking about nothing but my past. The enemy is talking to me when all he does is remind me of all the areas where I'm deficient. The enemy is talking to me when he keeps trying to hold an addiction against me that I've laid down. It's the enemy talking when you know you've been sober, but now all of a sudden you're starting to have dreams about doing what you know you left behind. It's the enemy talking, and you don't have to listen when the enemy talks. Whatever he's telling you is a lie. You don't have to listen. When you make up your mind that you are going to do something different, you need to understand that there are a whole legion of demons assigned to you to throw you off your course. Because the enemy does not want you to make any progress. I love it when people are honest with me and they're trying to get their lives together, but then they just have a real moment, Hermie, and they say, listen, I want to do this thing, but my God, it's harder than I expected it to be, and I'm feeling much like throwing in the towel on many days, and I don't know if I can make it. And matter of fact, I would go back, but I just don't want to lose my progress, and I don't want to upset upset God and I don't want to upset you. You ain't got to worry about me or Pastor E, but this is stuff people say. And I don't want to disappoint myself and all these things that we say. And when we're saying it, generally we're saying it from a low place. Do you understand where Ezekiel was when he was having this experience with these dry bones? Thank you, Brother Joe. That's exactly correct. He was in the valley. My God, when you get low sometimes, it's an easy thing to get low, and it feels like it's such a hard hill to climb to get up out of that valley. And when you're in the valley, everything tends to sound a little bit louder. Have you ever noticed when you're in a wide open space and you project your voice, what do you hear? Echo. Some of you have been hearing echoes. I'm here to tell you, you're not being defeated. You're not being overwhelmed. All you're hearing is an echo. Guess what? That doesn't mean that your assailants have multiplied. It just means that right now they're making more noise than you. But I decree, glory to God, and I declare, if you lift up your voice and you yell out to Jesus, help God, all of a sudden your voice becomes magnified and you'll hear there's more with you than against you. You got a whole host of people who are in this room on today rooting you on. I know it don't feel like it. I know late in the midnight hour when you're going through everything that you're going through, it seems like it's going to be easier to give up. But I decree and I declare, just because you can't see us rooting for you, baby, you being rooted for. Somebody believes God on your behalf. And even when you don't feel strong, oh my God, you better thank God for the echo. My. Because every so often, the echo just repeats what you've already said. And for somebody, today is an echo because you knew you could make it all along. You knew that you were the head and not the tail. You knew that you were going to be victorious. You just needed to hear Pastor Rye get up here and yell and scream and remind you that you are more than a conqueror through Christ which love you. You shall live. You shall not die. You shall declare the word of the Lord. Everything that belongs to you shall still come to pass. You know why? Because you're connected to me. And I decree and I declare everything attached to me wins. It wins. It wins. It wins. I don't care how you've been feeling. I don't care if you feel like you've been losing. I came to declare you shall win. If you believe it, open up your mouth and yell win. Come on, I need somebody to say I'm a winner. Come on, say I am a winner. Tell it to yourself one more time. I am a winner. No, not a loser. To be an MC. Thank you, Herm. Thank you. Thank you, Herm. Thank you, Pastor E. So the rattling noise was all across the valley. And then what we find is the noise wasn't just noise all by itself. The noise proceeded in action. That's why I don't want you to ever get afraid of the noise. Because something's coming with it. We see in the Bible that as the rattling noises occurred, then all of a sudden the bones of each body, my God, it was a valley of bones. How did the bones know which bodies to attach themselves to? Except God be in the valley with you. My God, you've been hating your valley experiences because you don't understand God is there with you and he's still got everything under control. So we find that the bones of each body began to come come together and they attach themselves as complete skeletons. There's an S on that. That's plural, because guess what? They became an army of skeletons, which is to say they became an army that experienced defeat only to win again. Some of you have been despising your defeats. You've been wearing them like God wasn't with you, but you need to know you can be a complete skeleton and God can still give you the victory. I don't need to have it all figured out. All I need to know is that God has it figured out. So they attach themselves as complete skeletons because it was the word of the Lord. I'm here to tell somebody, I know that you have been experiencing things that you never thought you would experience once getting your life together. I know I'm not the only one, but sometimes when you begin the path of cleaning up your messes, it seems like it gets much more messier. Did anybody begin to give their life to God and then all of a sudden your family members started tripping? I'm glad it's not just me. Did you give your life to God and then lose your job? My God, did you give your life to God and then all of a sudden now you got low self-esteem and you don't know where that came from because you used to love yourself and now all you can do is look in the mirror and hate what you've become and feel bad about where you're deficient? You understand that that's just part of the process of God maturing you. God is taking you to a place where you ain't gonna have to go by looks alone anymore. God is maturing you to the place where you can be what he says that you can be. God doesn't want you upset, worried, frustrated about what looks may be, because God has you in a place where you're cocooned and encapsulated by his word. You can win it. Pastor Steve, you can just stay soft. Yeah, because you can win. All you need to know is that God didn't bring you here for no reason. Do you understand that the valley of dry bones was created by design? You got to understand, anytime God brings you to a place of failure, it isn't so that you hate yourself. It's so that you have an opportunity to go back and fix whatever mess it was. Whatever you did deficient before, if God brings you back to it, it's not for you to be remorseful. God's bringing you back there because he wants to give you a chance to be restored. The Bible says that he will restore the years that the locust and the cankerworm did eat. I want to talk to somebody who feels like they gave God their life later in life and that you made 1,000,010 mistakes and you wish you would have got it together sooner. God says you're right on schedule. You're not behind. You're not late. You're right where he wanted you to be, because had he done it in your 20s, you might not still be here. Had he done it in your 30s, you may have died prematurely, but somebody's getting a little bit later into this thing and they decided to give God a yes, and now your testimony is so great that everybody around you is wondering what it is God's doing in your life, because you've had such a track record of being a failure. Now all of a sudden they see you in a new light. They see God moving in you. They don't even understand the things that is coming over you, and quiet as it's kept, you don't even understand the change that's come over you. But it was designed by God for such a time as this. So can these dry bones live? Well, my question is, are you living? Because you were dry, you were wasted, you were left to your own devices, yet and still you lived. Can these dry bones live? I'm proof of it. I'm evidence. I'm a living witness that what's dry by the power of the living God can live again. If you believe it, go ahead, put your hands together and give God glory.
Come on, stand to your feet. Stand to your feet all over this place.